Boker Plus Kwaiken, or some say Kwaiken, or however you personally choose to pronounce it. I've wanted one of these things for at least 2.5 years, according to one of my online wish lists that I looked up. I've been looking for the right one. They have made many different variations, and this one here is a liner lock variation that I believe is exclusive to Blade HQ, bladehq.com, with the marbled carbon fiber and copper handle materials. Again, liner lock, VG10 blade with what they call a smoke wash. It's actually a fairly smooth finish, very little surface texture on it, but has a little bit of a stone wash kind of look, but the black coating, black oxide style coating. So here it is. It's been a long time coming for me. A beautiful design based on a fairly old, small version Japanese tanto design, traditional actual Japanese tanto, not the modern Western style with the double angled main cutting edge. But yeah, I absolutely love the look of it. I've liked the profile of these since I first laid eyes on a relatively plain, simple version. And I, believe it or not, actually had a little bit of buyer's remorse once I got this into my hand, because this handle material here is just so smooth. There's very little texturing in it. And to keep this in good shape, you do want to keep a little bit of oil on the blade, and probably a little bit coating just the exposed copper sections to make sure you don't get too much tarnish and oxidation over time. And some of that is going to get into the handle, and it makes it even more smooth and more slippery. So I actually don't feel like I have too confident of a grip when I hold on to this. It's also well known to have this very, very, very small flipper, which converts into just a little bit of a finger guard, but it has this convex ramp with a little bit of jimping on the back of it. It doesn't really make your finger want to stay. It makes your finger want to jump over it. Again, it's rather smooth. You'll hear me say smooth. Well, you've already heard me say smooth probably too many times, but yeah, it just doesn't inspire confidence in terms of an in and out sliding. I mean, holding it against direct force perpendicular to the cutting surface is fine, and I love the shape of the blade. There's a good amount of meat here. The balance feels good, but the balance is going to be different depending upon exactly which variant you get, whether you get one with a composite handle like this or something with an all-metal handle. And again, they've made so many different versions. There's a lot of weight back here in the rear spacer, and overall this is a fairly handle-heavy variation, in spite of the fact that it does have the composite scales there. But I feel pretty comfortable with the balance of it. Again, very much like the shape of the blade itself, and it did come from the factory beautifully sharp for a production knife. This is a limited production version, but yeah, this really doesn't need to be honed. I'm happy with it as is. Love the look of it. Glad I finally got one of these. If I could turn back time, I probably would go for the bronze and micarta variation instead. I believe that micarta has just a little bit more texture and a little bit more grip in it. This looks more beautiful to me, but as something to actually hold and use, I would want a little bit more confidence. This just doesn't inspire me that much. The bearing system, IKBS bearing system, is very nice. It's absolutely perfectly assembled. It has just the right amount of torsion on the pivot there. It's just a little bit tighter than ideal. I mean, it's very free, but that's exactly where I want it to be. So when it breaks in a little bit, it'll become even more free than that. However, the lock is a little bit too tight for me. I might at some point disassemble this and try to remove a little bit of that tension, because as it is, especially with this very small flipper there, it doesn't always go and get a full lock there. This is a knife where if you want to consistently get a full lock, you do want to put just a little bit of wrist flick into it and make sure you get that that nice click, but you just don't have enough. You can definitely get used to it. Some people will be very consistent about getting a good lock there, but for me, a little bit of flick, that was even more than was necessary. So yeah, mixed feelings about this, in spite of the fact that I wanted it so much and I love the look of it, even now that I have it in my hands in person. Online pictures always show things in the best light, literally and figuratively, but this has not disappointed me in its finish. Its build quality is a little bit better than I expected for a production knife, but the smoothness of this handle is an issue for me. I may eventually just try to take a little bit of that out, mess around with some different emery paper, sandpaper types to see if I can get just a little bit of texture feel into this without ruining the look of it, and seal it back up. Those are my thoughts though. Yeah, a little bit of a mixed bag.